Pegasus bag, and I had to figure out some new Pegasus because I didn't like the way it looked before. So we're starting with some new ones here. There goes Raven, probably off to try and eat something she shouldn't while I'm cutting things out. But we'll see. If you hear me shouting at her, that will be why. It's gotten cold again. I really hate the yo-yo spring weather. It's like really nice out and then it's really not nice out. I hate it. I really just want to be in my garden. I miss my garden right now. Excuse me. It sure is heck on the sinuses too. Getting some of these legs cut out here. So we've got this big one here on the ground, kind of reared up. I really wanted to do something a little more dramatic on one of these. These are going to be the outlines again, but I think doing something a little more dynamic is good. So we don't have all the same critters flying around here on the bag. This one is going to be for one of my followers on Twitter, which is where most of my business comes from, to be perfectly honest. It's nice though when you have word of mouth and repeat customers and all that though. It works. So, get this one started here. The specific style of bag that I'm using for this is a bucket bag. It's kind of like a tall hobo bag. They're supposed to be slouchy, and I know that that's not a great word, but unfortunately that's what they're called. They're not super structured, so the interfacing that I use to make this one is a little bit different than what I would use for, say, some of my other bags. So it's meant to bend and give and not quite have such rigid lines on it. I like making different styles of bags. And they're not all purses. I do make things like I made tool rolls for gardening and one for woodworkers. That was an interesting one. It was very long for people that turn wood on lathes. That one was fun. I should try to make a knife bag one of these days for like chefs that do take their knives on the road with them. I know that there's quite a few of those. Maybe somebody would like a custom one. Which is the fun part about doing all this, because every bag is different. That's why I like doing custom work. I know that some folks don't, but I really enjoy it. Just because it's all so different and people come up with such amazingly cool things. It's a really cool thing when you can think of all the different things that people might want to get. That's why it's hard to buy fabric ahead of time sometimes, because they are so different and people have such different ideas of what they want. Like I could do like 5 owl bags and each one will be a different bag. Like a different owl and a different shape and a different size with a different liner. Hi Jedi, thanks for joining me. That's the really cool part about doing this. So even if I'm doing similar themes, like somebody else could want a Pegasus bag that would be completely different than this one. But maybe they saw this bag and it gave them the idea. getting these little tiny feathers cut out. Make sure that I've given them enough variance so that when I take the middle part out, you can still see in the silhouette that this is like the feather part. So got this big long line. It's really satisfying to pull some of these great big long lines sometimes. So there we go. Get this other ear done, and then this part will be finished. What metal part is there? I'm not sure which metal part you mean, Jedi. Oh, what metal? I meant middle part. What middle part? That's what I was talking about. When I pull the middle part here, I want to make sure that there's enough variance. Sorry, I must have been mumbling a little bit there. My bad. I got new scissors today. Got a brand new pair of these because my other ones were dull, so they've been retired to the rest of the house. So there's a pair downstairs that somebody else can use. These little precision scissors are not very pricey, so I just get a new pair because it's not worth trying to get them sharpened. Although now this one is really pointy at the end and very sharp, so I have to be careful that I don't like stab myself or cut myself by accident. But that's why I get these little precision scissors, is to get into these little corners after I've cut things. The big ones will not do the work right. It's not something that I like to mess around with a whole lot. It takes more time because the scissors are smaller, but you get a much cleaner, more precise cutting finish to this than if I was trying to use the big shears to do this. Right tool for the job in this case is tiny scissors. Yeah, these are, like, after experimenting for a while, these are some of my favorite scissors. They work great for this kind of detailed stuff. Up in these little corners is usually where you're going to have stray fibers that are still attached. So it's important sometimes to go slow through these. I've been doing this long enough that I remember, you know, where I can kind of cheat a little and pull them off. And when I have to be super careful with what I'm pulling, otherwise I just pull off pieces that I need to stay on there. I really love this color blue. It reminds me of Wedgwood China. That whole, the blue ones, not the Jade series. There we go. Finally came off there. I gotta send some of my other scissors out to get sharpened. It's important to keep them sharp, otherwise you're just kind of mangling your material and you don't get straight lines. I do not prefer a lot of the, like, some of the Joann stores offer scissor sharpening, and the last time I took my scissors there, they were not well sharpened, so I send them off to the manufacturer's scissor sharpener. I use Ginger scissors, G-I-N-G-H-E-R. I don't know how other people say it, but and they have lifetime scissor sharpening, so no matter when you bought their scissors, you can always get them sharpened. And honestly, I think it's worth paying a little bit more for that because it's hard to find people that sharpen scissors. A lot of knife sharpeners will profile them wrong. That's been my experience anyways. So you end up with scissors that don't last as long or don't do what exactly it is you need them to do. I prefer to send them to manufacturer sharpeners because that's what they do for their jobs. Okay. So this This is where it gets a little bit hairy of trying to get these things out of here. Okay, there we go. Now we're down to the wings, and this will be taking me a little bit here to get this done. Well, how it usually works with scissor sharpening is the Joann's place like subcontracts, so there's like a van or a person that shows up like on certain days of the month and will sharpen your scissors in the parking lot. And I'm sure there's some of them that have really good ones, but like around here I haven't had good luck, so I just kind of send it to other people to do it. Okay, let's get the little bits here on the wings. Are gonna take me a second to get out of here correctly, because this is one of those where I really can't pull. It'll just pull the little wing details off, and I'll end up with like a big smooth wing detail, and I don't want that. I've seen some people say that they can use like knife sharpeners on their scissors, but I would not trust that in my home. Like the little ones that you're supposed to use in the kitchen for sharpening your kitchen knives for scissors, and no. I don't trust those really with my knives that much, so I definitely don't trust them with my scissors. There we go. That's the excess bit. This is the bit we'll sew down. I'm gonna trim off this little piece here while I'm looking at it. What I'm doing when I have to clean these up, because I've talked about this before, I've talked about cleaning up the edges and stuff. There's little fibers left over when you cut things out. Excuse me. Throat's getting dry today. Yes, scissors absolutely do get sharpened, Jedi. They get worn down, and not all scissors are good at being sharpened. Hey, what's up, baby? But it's definitely important to keep them sharp. I send mine off every couple months once I get like 3 or 4 pairs that need to be sharpened. And yes, I have enough scissors that I can do that. I have a lot of scissors. And it's important that I have a lot of scissors because I need them. Because different scissors do different things. And having more than one pair is important so that when mine get dull, I can send them off to be sharpened. Which reminds me I need to write that check and get that done. Because I have 3 pairs that need to be sharpened. Yeah, we are definitely slated for the crappy weather, baby. It's supposed to start tonight. Ice and snow. It was 60 degrees yesterday. Oh, spring in the Midwest. It's so terrible. Fall, spring, full spring, whatever you want to call it. I just wish it would stay nice so that I could get my gardening started. I've got a bunch of seeds to get into my greenhouse. It's just a little plastic greenhouse, but I got a heater for it this year, so hopefully I will be able to start more seeds sooner. Sorry, there's someone at my door. Chris? Can you get that? Sorry, folks. My door just got banged on there. I don't know what's going on. It's a very loud knock.
No one?
What was that about?
Don't know.
You got ding dong ditched, huh?
Probably.
Well, there you go, y'all. Someone was banging on my door for no reason. Never a dull moment at my house. Ugh. I imagine down there that the spring is no joke with the pollen. I just really like to get my seeds started, and I can't really do it when it's like freezing, even with the heater. But I got a bunch of new seeds this year, and I'm excited to try it out. Getting there on this one. The little guys take me more time than the big guys, because I can't pull as many great big pretty lines as I would on the big piece with the little ones. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad that she's on her way down there to y'all. Let's try and get these little main bits here. No idea what that was about. Downstairs. Somebody usually knocks on my door. It's probably one of the kids. We had 2 days of rain, and now we're gonna have snow and ice. Not looking forward to it. It's never fun. Alright. Let's get this pretty little horsey out of there. Keep hoping somebody will ask me for My Little Pony bag one of these days, but I will get Pegasus, no problem. Done a couple last unicorn bags. Those were fun. The little bags, or the little pieces on these bags, take me a lot more concentration to cut out properly, so if I stop mid-sentence, you know why. Too many places are having dry winters. It's a little concerning. Oh, excuse me. Hope I don't have more hiccups. That would be unpleasant. So. Okay, one of the places that one of my fabric groups just had Squishmallow fabric, and I almost bought it, but I didn't. So now it's regrets. You always regret the fabric you didn't buy. So true. I always think, oh, I won't need that. No one's ever asked for one of those. And literally, like, the next time, oh, somebody wants one. Oh, alas. Oh, come on. Sometimes these little corners are so difficult to get into. So I kind of have to work at it a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to trim this up real quick. There we go. All right. So one of my customers has been trying to think of what they can do to challenge me more than the last bag I just finished. And I'm like, no, that's really not necessary. Don't have to challenge me. I'm good. Although honestly, that was like a huge challenge. I'm proud of myself for doing it. I don't know if that sounds conceited or not, but it's true all the same. Okay, I'm gonna have to... Yeah, I'm gonna have to change the profile of this face just a little bit. Once I get this thing fully out of here. Oh my gosh, please tell me, BB, what did he buy? I love it when teenagers get money and buy ridiculous things. It makes me so happy. Purple velvet Converse. That is a wise choice. To be honest, I'd probably buy the same. Purple velvet Converse. Kind of sad I didn't know about those to begin with. That's amazing. Assertive. It's a confident choice. Oh. Oh, to be a teenager when you get to randomly spend money on stuff like that too. Admittedly though, I kind of do want purple velvet Converse now. Sometimes your goth phase never goes away, right? You just gotta own a pair of velvet shoes. Which I do, but they're black, not purple. Ugh, hands hurt today. It keeps happening and I'm gonna think I'm aging, right? Lively chat channel this evening. Oh, I gotta get these feathers, so concentrating on that right now. I know some people would probably watch this and say, Alicia, why don't you just use one of those automated cutting machine things? And they're very practical, and I'm sure that they're great. And I have one, but it only works for very limited applications for me, for what I do, because I have to be able to switch things on the fly a lot, and sometimes the machine doesn't like to do that. And sometimes it just eats my vinyl. There we go. Which happens a lot. Sorry, y'all, my pinky finger's just killing me today. And my middle finger over here. Was that about aging? I just said. Alright, I'm gonna put these over here. We're gonna cut out this one. Then it's time to start sewing. There we go. So I like to keep things as far as like elements on the bag in odd numbers. It always just kind of looks better. So each side of the bag will have 3 Pegasus on it. I just think it looks nice. Yes. All right. There we go. Currently in the chat channel, we are discussing Mardi Gras, which, honestly, I think I'm too old to ever want to see. I used to want to when I was like 20. Now it just looks like a big hassle. I mean, I'm sure it's probably something I should see, but at my age, I just don't care. It just looks like too much. For me personally. Well, I would like to see Louisiana. Looks pretty. Mosquitoes the size of egrets and all. Right, baby? I hear from a lot of people the mosquitoes are amazingly large. I don't know if I would want to visit where the dinosaurs are, though. The alligators. Pants. Alright, I'm gonna have to do a little adjusting there. There we go. Alright. Oh, why that finger hurts so much? I haven't really even done anything that strenuous. It's my day off from running, which looks like tomorrow's going to be too with the ice and snow, because nobody needs broken ankles. That's certainly not healthy. Ew, termite swarms. Discussing southern bugs in the chat channel. I don't think I would appreciate a termite swarm, although I'm sure that lots of animals do, right? They like eat them and stuff. Of course, I'm sure a lot of people would find the cicadas that we get up here pretty terrifying too. Freaky little things. I'll get used to different stuff depending on where you live, right? Cicadas are just loud. They look like giant flies. They're very weird. My husband is actually Canadian. And the first time he came down here and heard a cicada, he thought they were birds. Because he couldn't understand how there could be A, bugs that large, and B, that many of them that could be so loud. It was really funny when it first happened. He's from a part of Canada where they have more winter than summer. Like, a lot more winter. So their bugs don't get that big. Moving here was culture shock. Right, dear? I don't know if he's listening right now or not, but probably. I think he spent like the first 2 summers that we were married just telling me to come here and look at this thing because he saw a giant bug and he had no idea what it was. But then he found out that praying mantises can fly, and that was pretty funny too. I mean, not for him, obviously, but for me it was. The sound is like droning. It's really weird. You just get so used to it, you kind of just forget that it's there. I don't know. It's just part of summer here. I would love to see giant dragonflies, I'm not gonna lie. Love dragonflies. Even though they can bite, but cicadas are creepy. If you see them, like at the end of summer when they start falling out of the trees and stuff. They're creepy little things. Usually I love bugs, but even I have my limits. I got a cicada stuck in my hair once, so I have opinions about cicadas. They're not very smart or anything. They're just loud. They look like big flies. The red-eyed ones are weirder. The red-eyed cicadas come out like every 17 years, I think. This is the 17-year cicadas. Those are creepy. For real creepy. I have a little garden pond out front and I'm trying to attract dragonflies to it. Because they do eat mosquitoes. They're very good little creatures. I've had more of them the past couple years. So I think it's working. Or there's enough things for them to eat, I guess. Of course, most of my garden is to attract bugs, so when I get them, I'm very happy about it. I'm gonna order some snails for the pond this year. You can mail order snails. There's a thing you know now. Just have a small garden pond. It's not really big enough for fish, and I really don't want the fish because they'll eat the frog eggs. And I do get frogs every year. Lots of frogs. Tree frogs and toads and all kinds of frogs. Sometimes I get really big ones. I like it when they hatch and little baby frogs are hanging out in my garden finding stuff to eat. Yeah. I imagine you have more frogs down there than I do, BB. Poor little things and singing in the chlorine pools. But mine's just a little pond. Yeah, most frogs are pretty loud, especially during mating season. Our tree frogs out here are stupid loud. You can't sit out on our front porch when they're out there singing all night. My son complains because they're loud. We have to close the windows sometimes so he can sleep because his bedroom's in the front of the house, closer to the pond. Frogs are incredibly vocal little things. You can always tell when you have a bullfrog out there too, because they make this weird, deep kind of banjo noise. That's the interesting part about living near a lot of water, I guess. Just realizing how loud it is. That's why it always creeps me out in like horror movies when they're out in nature and everything goes quiet, because you know, nature is not quiet. Not ever. Especially not frogs. We had an owl hanging out for a little while. Those things are loud too. Okay, getting there. Oh, you get all the fun stuff then. How many gators have you had in your yard? I think that would scare the crap out of me, really. Because they really are kind of like dinosaurs, right? Big old dinosaur lizards. Ooh, cottonmouths are nasty. We get those up here, though. So now that we're talking about Louisiana, I want, like, food. Something with andouille sausage in it. It's like the first thing you think of when you think of Louisiana, right? Is food. It's the first thing I think of, anyways. Okay, so there's this. All cut out. Ta-da! So what these are going to do, since I have everything cut out, is I'm going to, where is it? I had this one all laid out. There we go. I'm going to start by laying these out a little bit so that I can get a better idea of how much I'm going to need to back some of these with. That's definitely too small. Ooh, gator nuggies now. It's not fair. So how these are going to work out when I'm getting ready to sew them down is they'll be backed like this, and then I will sew down the outline around it. So the client specifically requested black and white. So that's what we're going to do. But first, what I got to do is cut all these out and clean them up because some of these little threads are still visible. And then we'll have one that will be this. One detailed one, and then the rest will be just the outlines. I think it's very elegant. So, chat channel, what say you? I wanted to do sparkly, but client says no sparkles, no pastels for the horses because she wants it to look like Fantasia, the Fantasia Pegasus adults. And I'm like, I can totally see that. So, yeah. I have so many sparkles, though. I'm sure eventually I'll do another Pegasus bag and somebody will be like, I need sparkles, and I will be happy. Because I have a lot. Not just sparkles, I have plenty of reflective ones, too. Baby, do you shop at My Punk Broidery? They have plenty of heat transfer vinyl. You should if you don't. The ones I'm using do have texture and they do have swirly patterns in it. These are not a flat vinyl that I'm using. So, if you look, this is from the Fluidity line. You can see there's different swirls and textures in this one. They're definitely not flat because I wouldn't have been able to do that. this one is looking pretty good. I got a few more here. Maybe resorting to fire here in a second because I don't know how much more patience I have for just cutting out these little bits. Fireworks. Fire is your friend. There we go. Okay, so there's one. I think that'll work. The fun part, so half of these will be black. And then, alright, I'll see you in a little bit. Okay. The best way to see if you've gotten the little extra fuzzies off of everything you've cut is to put it on a darker background, even if you're going to be finishing it with a lighter one, just so that you can see all the other stuff that you need to cut. Or trim, however you want to word it. I'm just ready for the really cold weather to stop. It gets harder the older you get. Starting to understand why people retire to places like Arizona. It's less difficult on ye old bones. Okay, that's good. Alright, we're going to cut these out. And then after I've trimmed this stuff up, we can tape down. Unless y'all are tired of listening to me talk. In which case, understandable. What I'm going to do here is I am going to burn these, and then I will trim what's left after the melting. Where's my light? Oh, there it is. Alright, so again, all I'm doing here is making a really quick pass over all my cut edges here with the lighter, to get rid of the little threads that are left after I've cut everything. Again, if you're gonna do this at home, just go fast. And sometimes you have to go back over certain areas because you've gone too fast, but it really does work and it's very handy. And it saves you a lot of this kind of trimming time because you're melting it. This only works on synthetic fabrics, so I would not try and do this with like leather. It's not gonna help. This works because I'm working with vinyl. Vinyl is a synthetic, so it just melts in the heat. The goal is to not melt it too much. So if I were to hold it on there too long, I might curl up the edges or melt parts that should not be melted. And that's not great. So if I don't think I can get it right away with the first melting, then I just have to do it like this. We have to hand trim. And that's okay, because that's all part of this. It's part of the job, as it were. Yep. So we still have some stubborn parts here that didn't want to melt down. So trim, trim, trim with my hands and my new scissors, because the other ones got dull and I don't pay you to sharpen those. I buy my thread snips, the plastic ones, by like, I think they come by the dozen. Just because sometimes it's just not worth it. The curved thread snips I will absolutely pay good money for, but not the regular ones. I find it amusing that I've made the point so often to my family about, you know, not using my scissors for anything other than, you know, me using them, that they ask me about every pair of scissors in the house now. It's pretty funny, actually. Mom, am I allowed to use these scissors? Well, if they're downstairs, more than likely. But then they bring them to me anyways. Like, Mom, can I use these? I'm like, yes, you can use those. Those are not mine. It's adorable. And very sweet that they actually listen when I say my scissors are important. And you should not be using them to do things like cutting paper or opening packages. That's how you get cut with the people cutting scissors. There's no such thing in the house. You don't have to be concerned. No one wants to take a chance. I don't really think I'm scary, but apparently I've made my point. There we go. Okay, gonna cut up this just a little bit. Okay. I know this is a little bit dull, but like, unfortunately this is all part of what I do, and I like to show the whole process because I don't want people to think that they're doing something wrong because I've skipped a step, right? Like, oh no, this is not how this is supposed to go because the person in the video didn't do this, and this is 100% part of it. There are a lot of things that sometimes get glossed over, and then people get confused when they try to do it themselves. I'm not saying like I'm some giant influencer or anything that I have to necessarily worry about this, but sometimes I've been skipping this step and I kind of felt bad about it. So we're going to be doing this part where I have to trim stuff up a little bit. For this one anyways, just so that folks understand that these things don't come out perfect. And sometimes not even the machine does it perfect, so you still have to go through and clean things up a little bit. Especially with the woven backings, which I highly recommend. I like to buy my vinyl with woven backings because it makes it stronger. So when you're sewing bags together, this part is going to stay together regardless of, you know, hopefully, how you use the bag. Within reason, disclaimer. Like, if you're trying to haul goats up the side of a mountain in the bag or something, it might not stand up. But for like normal everyday use, this should make the bag a little bit easier to stay together. Alright, let's do a bit of burning here. So again, the point of this is just to melt the edges a little bit to make things smoother and to get rid of these little extra threads that are left from cutting. So when you go to sew it down, there's not big uneven edges or anything. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go down here. Careful you don't burn yourself if you're not used to using a lighter. Don't set it down right on top of what you're working on. It's a good way to get a burn mark. And it's a good way to toast your fingers. I mean, yeah, it would be funny to carry a goat up a mountain, but extreme examples that I could think of. I love goats. They're funny little things. Alright, so I'm just gonna finish burning up, well, melting the edges of. I'm not really burning anything. This is the same thing that you would do for like the end of your nylon zippers or webbing to make backpacks with. All of those get their ends melted, usually with a lighter. I guess some people have machines for that. I've never seen one. But fire is used way more than I thought I would be using it in sewing, basically. Get these little toes. Okay, so yeah, kind of get this part. I don't know why my phone's making noises, but it is. Sorry if that was loud for y'all, because I stream from my phone. There we go. It looks nice. I know y'all can't see this part even if I held it up close, but this is my own thing, is that I don't like the uneven edges sometimes when I cut things, so I always make sure I am evening it out and cleaning up the edges, because I don't like it otherwise. I'm gonna remove a little bit of squareness from this Pegasus's face. Looks a little too rugged. A little too square-jawed for me. Horses usually aren't that angular. Even made-up ones. That's better. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so going to start taping these down. Try to cut off this little bit here. Okay, the scalpel gets put away so that nobody accidentally gets cut. Nobody meaning me. Okay, so how I'm going to do this one, this is a reverse applique piece, and I talked about this in my tutorial. I like to lay this piece flat on there and then put the backing piece on it. Alright, I have to find my, there it is, double-sided tape. Crud, I need to order more. Getting down there. I use a lot of this stuff, obviously. I might have one more roll, maybe. I like to buy up in advance, just because I don't want to run out and have to cut down the 1/2 inch stuff because it's a pain in the behind. So what I'm doing here for this piece, because it's reverse applique and not the applique that I put on the top, these little tiny bits that want to move around when I'm stitching them down are the parts that I'm getting first, because I don't want to have, there we go, these little narrow parts are such a pain, but I don't want them to move around, because if I muck up the stitching on them, I don't have any way to correct it. I gotta start over. So that's one of my major concerns when I'm doing work like this, is how am I going to get this sewn down, and where do I need to put my pieces so that it sticks and it doesn't move once I have the backing material on it. Now, I said this on the tutorial about doing reverse applique, and that you can put backing, like a stabilizer on here. I generally do not, just because I don't think it's necessary. I'm stitching one material to another, and then the stability of the bag shouldn't be in question a whole lot, but it's a personal choice. Some people do put stabilizers on here. It's just not me. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this piece is very, very small, and I'm just going to cut off the edges here before I stick it down, so that none of the double-sided tape is sticking out. Okay. This is some of the technical aspect of what I do. So that I have to make sure that everything stays in place while I'm doing it. Otherwise, it messes up. And again, gotta start over. There's not a lot of ways to save materials like leather and vinyl once you put a stitch into them. Once that's in there, it's done. If you have to redo it, then you have to sew over the exact place that you sewed before. And that can be tricky for anyone. I don't care how long you've been doing this. It's not an easy thing. So the reason that I lay these flat when I'm putting the backing material on instead of picking this up and turning it over and laying it flat on top is because when you pick it up, parts of it can move. So when I set it down flat, I already know that I'm working on a flat surface and it's less likely to have bubbles in it, warps, or things like that. So as you can see, I can look now and see where else I need to put tape down now that I've turned it over, and I know that there's no gaps in it. I find this is the easier way to do it, and I've done this quite a bit, so nobody has to listen to me, obviously, but if you were curious, that's why I do it this way. Because once you get a warp in the flatness of the material, you have to work it out. Otherwise, it gaps, and then you have a wrinkle in it as you sew it down. It doesn't look nice. Ask me how I know. There we go. So I'm gonna put one more here. So for this, I'm going to leave this here, and I will sew down these bits. Okay, so when we do outline work like this, I think it's always best to do it in stages, just so that we don't have a bunch of overlap of materials, and I can easily cut down and I can cut it down. So in the tutorial before, I mentioned that it's best to leave about a ½ inch on the outside of the lines. That way, that if anything starts pulling away from anything else, there's a barrier, like a gap, so that, like, if it's right up against the edge here and it starts to pull, you're more than likely going to get a rip. The more material that's on the outside, the same goes for webbing, by the way, the more material that's on the outside, the more that has to pull before it rips apart. I'm going to grab my thread here. Yes, this is the color I needed. Going to sew down this one side, and then I will tape and sew the other one. Sometimes I find that sorry about that noise. Sometimes I find that this reverse applique is a little bit easier than regular applique. It depends on what you're doing, really, but I find that it's a little bit easier. For the backing thread here, I'm not going to match it exactly. I don't really need to.
Hi, Mom.
Buddy, I'm busy right now.
Love you.
I love you too. Nobody's going to see this thread on the back, so it doesn't really matter what color you use. As long as it's not like, I don't know, a thin white bag and you're using black thread on the back. That'll make a difference. But for this, it will not, because we're using a fairly thick thread. Let's get this one sewn down. Maybe, oh, there we go. Sometimes the thread doesn't like to cooperate and it gets on my nerves, but could also be that I might need bifocals, but we'll have that conversation another time with a doctor. Alright, so I'm going to start here on the tail. I'm going to start with the needle in the down position. Always, always, always. Because if you're going to go around these corners, you see how I just used the needle for a pivot point? This is how you get really nice tight corners, is by having your needle in the down position. That's why I use a newer machine to do this kind of work, mainly because I can control the speed a lot better, and I can place the needle where I need it to be. On my vintage machine, I can't really do that. I can control the speed, but I can't really control how the needle comes down. So sometimes it might come up, and then I have to like try and reposition where it is. Tried this several different ways. So this is what I found that works. I know lots of other folks out there have different ways of doing things, and that's cool. But that's how I do it. I don't know if you can argue a whole lot with my results. I'm obviously like not the best person that's ever done this ever. There's so many talented people out there, but I'm not too bad. Some kind of music? I have no idea. One of the kids are playing with something. No, there is no singular way of doing much of anything, really. I know that there are some computerized embroidery programs that will do all of this kind of stuff too. It's very impressive, really. There are some folks that will do this in one single straight line, like they'll just sew all the way through. They don't stop and turn things like I do. But again, that's more skill and preference, really. I'm certainly not the best person who's ever done anything like this. Like I said, there's lots of talented people out there doing stuff just like this. But again, I'm not bad at it. So take my advice for what it's worth. It does bother me though when people get weird about techniques or materials sourcing or whatever. I see it so often. It's so strange. Like, why wouldn't you tell somebody how to do something? I know a lot of people that have, you know, had bad experiences in hobbies because nobody would help them when they needed help, and sometimes forums aren't always really friendly places. So I try to do my best to make sure that I can be helpful to people, because I certainly didn't get to where I am now by, you know, going it completely alone. There we go. It always kind of irritates me when people act like their material sourcing and all this is some kind of big dark secret. It's just weird. I'll always share with people where I get things, like everything I'm using right now. The thread is Mandala thread. It's on Amazon. It's where I get it. Most of the thread over here is Selric or Mandala. I only have a few Selrics left now because they have certain colors that I can't find in Mandala threads. I like Mandala better. The sky blue vinyl came from fabric.com, which has a lot of really nice marine vinyls. The black and white vinyl is from My Punk Broidery. Which is where I get most of my vinyls from, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I get that people think, you know, hoarding the knowledge makes them indispensable, but, like, I don't know. It just bothers me. Not everyone in the world is your competition, you know? And I think it's more that. Like, they think if they give somebody the information that somebody's going to make a bag better than they are with the same materials. And I don't know. I got all kinds of anxiety and all this kind of stuff, but I'm just like, well, if they can make the bag better than I do, then that says something about my skills, not them. I don't know. It just really weirds me out. Makes me mad sometimes. That's why I tell people things about what I'm doing and how I do it. Because if you can do it better than me, go ahead. Good for you. For real. Not like sarcastic. I mean that. I want people to succeed and be happy and do really cool stuff. I mean, obviously I want those things too. I want to be successful and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't see how keeping all that to myself would help me at all. People get very proprietary over strange things. There we go. I guess they probably do it, like, so that they can always get what they want, but, like, nothing's ever really that secret. Somebody out there knows what it is, or where they got it. I mean, they can't be the only person using a place, or the place wouldn't be in business, you know? It just seems very petty. I don't know. It's just one of those things in communities that I don't always get. Okay, so we're going to, let's see, gotta find the right piece here because I had a piece set aside for this one. I just reordered more of this white and I don't have a ton. So let's put it on this piece. Okay. So this one's there. I have a lot of this vinyl here. I'm going to trim this up just a hair. Might be, I guess. I don't know. I just think some people aren't very kind sometimes. I think it might be a little less, I don't know, I think it might be a little more simple. It's just that some people just aren't very nice and don't like to share. I don't know. I don't participate because, you know, most of the vendors that I buy from like my specialty vinyls or fabrics or whatever. Most of them are small vendors who I know could use the money from other sales other than mine. So I really like to make sure that I tell people when I find something cool that's from a small vendor so that they can, you know, share it and enjoy with somebody else. And my favorite vendors make money and stay in business. So everybody wins. In my world, anyways. There's a lot of small vendors out there for bag stuff, so I like to support them. Like the zipper pull for this bag is from Vala Creative Designs. It's a small vendor and I really like her stuff. So I strike for her. No, I've talked about strike teams before. Pretty sure anyways. Sounds way cooler than it is. Strike teams sound super awesome until you really know what they are. It's just making samples so that people will buy stuff. Making like commercial products, kind of. So if I get sent, say, a yard of fabric and some zippers, I can make something and I will put it in fabric group, you know, be like, oh look what I just made, isn't it pretty? You can get it here. Okay, we're going to be very careful with putting this one down. There we go. Isn't that pretty? So you have this beautiful black and white Pegasuses with that kind of really cool swirly shimmery material. I'm going to go ahead and just sew this down as it is, and then I will more precision cut this white off for the other side because I don't have a ton. But I really do like the black Pegasus. They look so pretty on this fabric. But the white kind of makes me think of that Wedgwood china too. Okay, we are cutting. Oh yeah, there's tons of zipper pulls. It's actually one of my favorite things about making bags. So I pick up some all the time. I'm like, ooh, shiny. I could make something cool out of that, for sure. That's also why I don't like to do couture bags, like, because the pulls are so boring. I know that's ridiculous, right? That's just completely ridiculous, but okay, so like, if you're listening, sounds like we're being invaded. That's helicopters. There's National Guard armories all around us, and they've been particularly active lately. It's a little concerning. Thank you. I love my zipper pulls. I source them all over the place, so you have to ask for a specific one if you want to know where it came from, but I am happy to share my vendors on that. I love zipper pulls. It's legit one of my favorite things about making bags. So I'm like, ooh, I can get this one. Ooh, I can get this one. And then I feel like I have way too much power in this instance. But like, if I become friends, like real friends, not just, you know, fake friends, with my vendors, they listen to me when I ask for things. Seems like way too powerful, right? It does to me anyways. It seems like I have way too much power there. Like I shouldn't be able to do that. Hang on, I gotta fix this. My, yeah, Valley Creative Designs. I love her stuff. That's Candace. She's my friend. She's very nice. And that's why I strike for her. Yep, she has all kinds, like, sorry, I have to fix this because my needle got stuck. That's what I'm doing right now. Is when I was sewing this, the thread was coming back out because the double-sided tape. So when that happens, all you have to do is clean off your needle, basically, because it's just residue. Doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong or anything's irreparable. It just means that there's a little too much sticky residue on there because we're using all that double-sided tape to stick stuff on, basically. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start here. So I'm going to go back over the holes that I already made so it doesn't look bad. And then keep going. Let's see. Where do I get my zipper pulls from? Let's see, Valid Creative Designs is probably one of my biggest ones. Indo Love Creations is okay. Wizardry Stitches. Let's see, Nightmare Before Stitches. Theirs is definitely more like horror themed. Obviously, Nightmare Before Stitches. They do a lot of the darker pulls that I have. Horror movies and stuff like that. And let's see. So Dolce has a lot of really cute stuff. Let's see. Alchemat's webbing and zipper pulls from there. I said Bella's already. I'll buy from other places if I see them. Zorel.
Hey Mom, I'm getting a drink. Do you want one?
No, honey, I'm fine, but thank you for asking.
Okay.
Zorel Fabrics. Thank you, dear. Yeah, I order from them a lot, too. My husband helps me keep track of business expenses, so he knows who I buy from the most. It's nice to have help, because I would not be able to do this all on my own.
Come on, you.
Oh, I figured out what it was. Jeez. Ow. Just whacked my elbow off the table. This thing's over here making noise, and I'm trying to figure out what the heck. Kal-El is Superman, darling. It's Zor-El. But that's rather the point, because it's just like a big Z. Oh, come on. Sorry, I have one of these with a chipped base, and sometimes the thread gets stuck in the cone. It's very annoying. But anyways, they have lots of really cool zippers and zipper pulls out there, and I try to get a good variety while still like staying in the general theme of what everyone likes, or what everyone seems to, I don't know, what a general consensus of what I usually do is. It's hard to predict because, like I said, everybody wants something different. Everyone wants something, you know, that they're passionate about, or they really care about, or their pet, or something like that. So it's hard to sometimes pre-buy things, because I can look at, you know, statistically what I've done the most of. So I try and avoid a lot of licensed characters. I mean, I've got some, obviously, but for the most part, I don't do that many bags like that. Yeah, it is like the Superman logo. That's... But yeah, I do a lot more nature bags than I expected to, honestly. Like, some people want like landscapes or flowers or stuff like that, so it's hard to say what I thought people would really go for in the beginning. It's a lot less licensed stuff than I expected, really. Just because there's so much of it out there now. It used to be. Back in my day, it was hard to find this stuff, you know? Couldn't find just a Wonder Woman bag anywhere you went, but now you can't. You can hardly avoid them, really. Which is really cool when you think about it. But, like, it makes it more interesting for me to do this, really. Oh, stop it. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Okay. Well, we got a little bit of a snag there, so let's figure that out. Clean this up here. Part of the hazard of doing this kind of work is that apparently, yeah, there's like loungefly. They'll do anything, really. So, makes it more interesting for me, though, because people don't have to request the same, like, popular IP, I guess. Really like to design for Wizards of the Coast. I think that would be super cool. Kind of speak that into existence. They do not have great bags, especially for femme people. Magic the Gathering and D&D and all that, man, I would love to be able to design for them. I think that would be amazing. So, I don't know how many threads we have starting here. You can still see it looks pretty smooth. Mainly just because I've gotten fairly good at this kind of going back over stitches that I've already done and stuff like that, because I mess up. I mean, there's just no other way to say that. I mean, things happen, threads get stuck or whatever, so we're going to be a little bit more aggressive in trimming this one than we were the other one. Just because I don't have a ton of this right now. It'll probably take about 3 days before I get more. There we go. There's our pretty little Pegasuses. Pegasi? What's the plural of that? Pegasus? Pegasus? I don't know. Anyways, so this is going to be... Ooh, sorry, that's a terrible noise. I apologize. You would think that they would, but they don't. There's not really many bags out there licensed to either one of those properties. That's why I get so many requests for them. This one's going to be black too. I like the black Pegasus. I think it looks really pretty. But like, especially Magic the Gathering, right? I get a lot of women and femme presenting folks who want Magic the Gathering bags because it just doesn't exist. They don't make them. Which you would think, considering how long Magic the Gathering's been around, they would. I would love to design for them. I think it would be really fun. But I will keep up my job here doing what I'm doing until that happens. Like, it's a foregone conclusion, right? Be helpful, I guess. Speak it into existence or something. Truly doesn't mean anything. Got to do the work. If I was super ambitious, I'd just send him a pitch, but I don't think I'm quite there. Mainly because the thought almost gives me a panic attack. Wouldn't know what to do. Alright. Get in there. I'm sure watching me tape things is super fun, but it's necessary. Have to get the things down the way they're supposed to be, or else it will come right back up. Or it'll move around while I'm sewing it, and it looks like crap. So, process. We don't deviate from the process. I was talking about horror novels today on Twitter. Specifically ones by T. Kingfisher or Ursula Vernon, depending on how you want to know her. I think they're published under T. Kingfisher, though. It's talking about the Twisted Ones. Have any of y'all read the Twisted Ones? Or listened to it? I listened to it on audiobook while I'm working. Have you listened to the Twisted Ones? Have you read it? It's very creepy. Incredibly creepy. Like, I'm randomly sitting around thinking, and I'll just think about that book. Lines from the book. It's very spooky. Which led me to say that I don't know if I'm going to read The Hollow Places, also by the same author, because the Twisted Ones freaked me out so much. I will eventually, because I really want to. I love horror books, but that one was scary. Makes me want to make a bag out of it. Like, the whole concept of the thing. Okay, so we're gonna flap this down here. I love to listen to books while I work. That's what I do when I'm not talking to y'all. I listen to books. So my Audible and subscription and I have a good relationship, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. The way I describe the Twisted Ones is it's more cerebral horror, less like buckets of blood or things like that. It is, like, creepy though. Like, super creepy. Okay, so there's our second Pegasus. As you can see, the reason that, like, yesterday when I finished the stream, I had to go and look. Because, see, here we have these, and they all look a little bit different. Yesterday, they all looked the same. That's why I had to go and find new ones to get. So, on the other side of the bag, we'll have 2 white Pegasus and 1 black one. Just so that we have a little bit more variety. I'm very keen on these things not being like static or looking like they got printed out or stamped out of all the same mold. Even though 2 of these are the same Pegasus. So the one I'm working on now and this one are the same cutout. I managed to make them different enough that you can't really tell that I've used the same printout for them. And some of that depends on how you cut it, too. Yeah, I traumatized my brother with it when I was a kid. So, believe it or not, we're really good friends as adults, but I don't think he's ever really forgiven me for that. I'm like 3 years older than him, so I was like 11 and watching the miniseries. So he was a little bit, you know, like 9. And to this day, he won't watch that movie. Tried to get my husband to go see the first one, or the remake in the theater, and he would only go see the first one with me. I watched the second one on HBO. It's like, I really do like to be scared, but most of them don't scare me. They're just kind of goofy. I don't know. probably weird and desensitized. I started reading Stephen King when I was like 9. Gen X. Yeah. I also read V.C. Andrews when I was, you know, teenager, so. That was an interesting discourse day on twitter.com. This part's a little tricky, so give me just 1 second to keep that at. There we go. Man, that Flowers in the Attic series is twisted. Like, the whole thing is just, woo, so weird. A lot of those books are pretty messed up. When you really just stop and think about it. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I never really got the popularity. I mean, like, I enjoyed it because it was definitely, like, woohoo, forbidden literature, right? But, like, I don't know why it was quite so popular. Maybe that was it. It was just had to be forbidden. Salacious. It's a great word. Yeah, most of my classmates had read most of the Flowers in the Attic by the time I was a teenager. There really was a belief for a while amongst a lot of parents that it didn't matter what we were reading as long as we were reading, and that led to some very poor decision making because we were kids. So that might not have been the best idea. I'm not saying things should be censored, don't get me wrong, but maybe 9 years old is a bit young.
Time to go ask my dad to get me my pills.
Maybe 9 years old is a bit young. Be reading Pet Sematary and it. I don't know. I would not let my 9-year-old read it. We'll put it that way. A lot of weird time back in the late 80s and early 90s. Okay, we're almost done with this side. I'm probably gonna get the other side next. That. Okay, there we go. Part of it was starting to fold up where it was too narrow to tape. So, gotta keep an eye on that. So one of the important parts of getting all of this down is it also gives the bag more stability than it would otherwise have when you backstitch and stuff like that. Because we've cut holes in the original material to do the reverse applique. So, leaving the edges a little bit out more is again the stability part of it. Repeating myself a little bit because I'm getting tired. So, I'm gonna trim this up real quick, and then I will call this a night, I believe, just because I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. That's about as long as I can talk for. There we go. So this is one side fully complete. We have this, and then I'm going to stitch this together, and I will top stitch the sides of it. It'll look really pretty. But there's this side fully done. And that is it for tonight, folks. Thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you all later. Bye!